Nursing from the Male Perspective, a podcast designed to spotlight the unique careers of men working in a field dominated by women. Our platform allows for nurses to have a safe space to vent, tell their stories, dispel some myths, and give their best piece of advice in a relaxed environment. All clinical antidotes have been de-identified as to comply with HIPAA regulations. Also, we are nurses, not doctors. Anything heard on the podcast does not constitute medical advice. Please consult with your primary care provider about what is right for your specific plan of care. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of Memoirs of Murse. My name is Devon.
And I'm Derek.
And unfortunately, Erica is not with us today. She has to get prepared for finals. It's the end of the semester here, so we're going to let her have a night to focus on her studies, and then she will be back with us next week when we do episode 3. So with that being said, it's just going to be guy talk tonight. We're just going to have the fellas. It's just me and Derek. We're going to chop it up tonight. What we want to talk about today is some of the unique challenges that males face being men in a field that's dominated by women. We came to you guys a little bit last week talking about the perceptions of male nurses being maybe a little bit more promiscuous or being more flirtatious. We're going to kind of flip that on its head, and the perception that we kind of want to talk about today is that male nurses are often seen as less masculine. So that being said, tell me a little bit how you feel about that, Derek. How does it feel when somebody tells you that you're less masculine as a nurse?
It's the first time I've ever experienced that. It was like a shock to me. Like, what? Are you serious? Like, my job dictates whether I'm a man or not, or, you know, it really it took me for a loop. Like, I experienced it once upon a time at a previous job where it was a male CNA who assumed that I was like homosexual. Now, I don't have anything against homosexuals.
No, not at all. Like, we definitely
LGBTQ community or whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, because here we definitely believe that like love is love. We're not gonna hate you just because you love somebody that's not. So I mean, because we definitely not homophobic here, but there definitely seems to be like a very prevalent stereotype that male nurses are gay, and that's not true that all of them are. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, you know, some of our brothers out there, you know, are homosexual, but that has nothing to do with the job. And that's kind of one of the conundrums to me is like, why is a sexuality tied to a job? Like, I just don't understand why that's the case, man. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's really like stems from back in the day type of the mentality, like the 50s on up to the 60s, right before the 70s, of the independent households, where the man did the masculine things and the female did the quote unquote feminine things, you know, tied to that. And as a society, I think we're still dealing with those ideas that were set in place so long ago, along with other issues that we're dealing with from back in the day.
Right. I mean, and that makes sense to me because when I think about it, you know, caring for somebody that's sick, that's seen as like something that's like motherly, like, because, you know, a nurse, like, we're nurturing, like, we're caring, like, you know, we're really attentive, you know, to the needs of somebody else. And in these, you know, old gender roles and stuff that we have, like, that's the role of the mother in the home. The mother is the one who make sure that everybody's fed and their nutrition is good. Like, if the kids scrape their knee, they're the one patching it up. Like, it's the mother, like, who does that. So that is seen as a motherly thing to do, when really, you know, and men in society are supposed to be the aggressors, the protectors. You know, the men are the ones who are the fighters in the military and all these things like that. And so I just think, like, now in today's society, like, we kind of have a different perspective of what gender roles look like. And even just on a psychological level, like, we even I think men of today are a little bit more in tune with both sides of them, and really that masculinity is not really defined by your job or what it is that you do. I was telling somebody the other day that as a matter of fact, I'm just be a little bit transparent. So I'm in a Facebook group for it's called like Single Life for the Medical Professionals, and in this group, one of the members of the group just posted that, like, you know what? I'm just not having luck dating in the medical field because none of the men are masculine enough for me. And all of the dudes was like, like, what? Like, you know, it's dudes in here, right? Like, we can see you. Like, we see you saying this about us. And we're like, no, that's not even true. And I came on and I made a statement and I was like, well, if you really think about it, I feel like caring for and protecting another life, especially in this medical setting, like in the hospital, like when people are like a lot of times on their last leg, like to be able to lay my feelings aside, to lay my pride aside, you know, to care for somebody else, like I feel like it's one of the most masculine things that you can do. To not care about how society is going to view you when you go out and selflessly give of yourself to somebody else who can't give anything back to you. Like that is like, I just feel like that's so selfless, and I think a lot of our society is driven on selfish. You know, it's all about me. It's all about me, and so to see a man that's contrary to how men have been portrayed, you know, years over years, it may be a little bit of a shock to some people to kind of see that.
Yeah, it's almost it's a culture shock to some, especially like you know, being I don't know, well I guess I do know, but like the idea of a male, like even in like as a nurse, you know, they see you clean cut and you know you have yourself put together, and they automatically attach that to a feminine trait. Like that is the weirdest thing. Like a man that likes to smell good, likes to be trimmed, and you know be presentable, especially on the job, and where the first impression is everything. Especially dealing with patients.
Right.
You know, they don't want you to come in there all sloppy and you smell worse than the the urinals. You know, like you have to be presentable.
Right.
And like it just puts like being a clean cut male in the nursing industry kind of puts a target on your back as far as your manhood is concerned.
Right. And I think a lot of them look at us and be like, oh, they like metrosexual, like they.
You know what? I've heard that. Like I've not just like it's because the crowd that I was a part of back in the day, like I dress, you know, like style, like you want to have you want to look good,
right? Like I care about how I look, like I take care of myself. Like, you know, and like self-care is like one of the biggest things, like, you know, that men kind of lack in. And but if you see, like, I think sometimes they say if you a man that takes too much pride in how you look, that you either metrosexual or that you gay. And that's, you know, I guess that's because we are contrary to that rough, like classic, I guess that Neanderthal true man look. Like we kind of blur that line a little bit, I guess, for people.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's a teaching opportunity for us.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
To break that mold of what they think the nursing field and men in the nursing field are. You know, it's not a monolith, and we
definitely
we
by no means
very diverse backgrounds of individuals. So, you know, like that for me, it was something new to address. To like, it definitely made me more self-conscious of who I was, because when I was addressed with the issue of like, was I straight or was I, metro or homosexual, was like, what? You like, I thought I was just being me, but the perception of a man as a nurse, that's one hit against. It's like you being a nurse as a man, and boom, you come in here with your figs, your scrubs a certain manner. They fit you. Your shoes are not scuffed up. Like that. It was like, man, I thought I was doing all the right things, and boom, here's the stereotype that they throw out there. So, we've I feel like we're coming a long way with it because, like,
yeah, I agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah, we're part of a group that shows. I mean, like it's a micro of a macro of like we have it's a small fraction of the group that are men, and the majority of women, and that fraction of the men, we're broken down into different categories from our sexual preference to the way we dress. It just shows like we're so diverse in who we are as in the medical field in general.
Right.
But like a lot of people are not used to that or accustomed to the male nurse.
Right. And I just got to think about it, like, for myself too, because it wasn't. I've definitely had, the encounters with people that like have questioned like what my sexuality is, and at first it definitely caught me off guard too, because I'm like, first of all, why do you feel like my sexuality is tied to a specific career? Like, especially it's the medical field. Like, first of all, like my sexuality has nothing to do with me caring for another individual. Right. But when I really gave it like some real thought, it wasn't like that I can understand why somebody would say that, but I see like there are certain characteristics of a nurse that that people are like attribute to femininity. Like I'm kind of soft spoken. I don't I guess I don't like I've had like a lot of females tell me that, oh, you just have like a nice like soft voice. I don't have like that deep rough edge like that most men have. Calm. And so, but yeah. I usually have like a calm and level headed like tone of voice. But that's kind of very important when you think about what I have to do like as a nurse. Like we have to be therapeutic communicators. Our tone, inflection, everything, like all of that is important in how you communicate with the patient. So you got your verbal communication, and you also have your nonverbal communication. And that just kind of leads me to like my next point is that as men, like we are bigger, we have deeper voices, like we're tall, like so a lot of times we can come off as intimidating, and especially even more so intimidating to a female patient. And even taking it a step further, like if we have a female patient who has a history of abuse, and so just the presence of a man is triggering to a lot of these patients. But we have to be cognizant of that and like keep that in the back of our mind when we move and enter a room and give care. So I have to make sure that my nonverbal communication, my body posture, the way I carry myself is not intimidating to a female patient, or just to patients in general. So, and it's not that I'm trying to shrink myself, but I do have to be mindful of how I present myself. So someone on the outside looking in at this situation doesn't understand why I'm moving the way I'm moving, but people within the medical field who know the importance of all of these small nuances when you're interacting with a patient, they understand. But on the outside looking in, they're like, oh, nah, he's not masculine. Like he's shrinking himself down. He's talking soft. Like he's doing all these things, and oh, he must be gay. Like, no. I'm being mindful of how I carry myself when I'm giving my patient care. So that way I make sure that I'm maintaining the therapeutic milieu or, the therapeutic working relationship that I'm supposed to have. And you have to be even twice as mindful of that as men, because even as a child, like I've always been told, like as a young boy growing up, when you start, being interested in girls and you start interacting with girls, like my uncle would always tell me, he's like, hey man, you better make sure that you don't hurt her. You don't do anything. You better be mindful careful what you do because it's always her word against yours, always. So, and we got to think about that as men because the kind of care that we give is on a very intimate level, extremely. Like,
yes, very so.
And so we have to carry ourselves in a way that nothing we do can be, misconstrued as abuse, not physical abuse, not sexual abuse. And so these are the things that we have to be mindful of. And even going back to episode 1, like it's these perceptions of these things, like men are already perceived as being flirtatious. So I'm perceived as being flirtatious when I'm one way, or if I'm not that way, I'm perceived as being gay, or, it's all of these perceptions that we have to fight against on a regular basis, inside and outside of the hospital about being males in this field. And I just think that it's kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't really think about unless you're on the inside, living the life of a male nurse.
Yeah, and it's definitely a line we have to walk with it, to ensure everybody else is they're comfortable in the environment. You have to read the room very well, even in a relaxed state where you're interacting with your coworkers,
right.
A joke or whatever, there's different tones to everything.
Right.
So we definitely have to be aware of that.
Right. And like we definitely have to be more keen in social settings. And then I think that's another one of those things that men that are seen as, social butterflies or spend a lot of time around women or that are talkative and things like that, they're being overly social for what men should be, in mixed company. But, so I think that's also one side of the coin. And then, another side of the coin is like, man, like these men spend all this time with these women. Are these women rubbing off on them? So, and that's another thing that you got to think about. It's like, man, there's all these different sides of the equation that you have to kind of factor in when, people think about the masculinity, of a nurse.
Yeah, because a lot of the times, we get that thing where, why are you a nurse and not a doctor?
Yes, I've definitely encountered that stereotype a lot.
Yeah, it's like, what? Like nursing is not an easy path to walk. I mean, the shoulders that it's carried on, it's made to look easy, but man, it's a rough road.
Yes, man, this is not for the weak, like at all, not by any means.
So
not by any means.
Even with patients, you get that to where they're in a sense of like they assume that the male nurse is the doctor because they've had this perception of men being the doctors and females being the nurses. Like it's like almost like a second, not even a second thought, like second nature for them to assume that.
Exactly. Like, and I can give you like an example because even when I was just a tech. Like I wasn't even like working in a nursing student role. I wasn't in clinical. I was just a tech, almost like a CNA on a neuro med surg floor, like a regular floor, not even in the ER. And I had a patient one day, and I was coming in her room just to get her vital signs. And here she is. She's on the phone. And, she's a black lady, and she was on the phone with, whoever it was on the other end. And she was just like, oh, hey, my doctor just came in the room. Like this young black man, like, he's taking care of me. Oh, this is my doctor. Let me call you back. Yeah. And the lady hung up, and I had to tell her like, hey, like I'm far from a doctor. Like I'm just a tech. I'm here to get your vital signs. So, like, I mean, I appreciate you speaking that into existence over me, but like, I'm not a doctor. And so, but it's just for the fact that like, this is the first time I had ever really came into this lady's room. And just off the fact of my male presence, she didn't think that, oh, he's a nurse. Oh, he's a CNA. Like she went straight to doctor. Yeah. Like,
no other factors were included. Just you were male and some scrubs,
That's it. And so, and that's from the patient point of view. Like even from the other side, like coming down, like I've had, even like other doctors have kind of like mistaken me for a doctor. Like even like in the ICU, not the ICU, I mean the ER. So in the ER, a lot of times different doctors on different services wear different colors of scrubs. because the doctors can kind of wear whatever color scrubs that they want. And so we had a uniform color change. So we went from like a bright, like a teal to like a navy blue. And I'm not gonna lie, like when we switched to that navy blue, bro, I felt like a doctor. That navy blue was clean, bro.
It was hidden.
It was hidden, bro. And then I had my little vest, my little embroidered vest and everything. Then I had the scrub cap, bro. You can't tell me nothing. Then my mentor had bought me the Echo stethoscope. I had like the legit amplified stethoscope that like all of the doctors and residents was walking around like. And so I'm not even lying. Like when I hit the floor, like I exuded doctor energy. So and just I've definitely been mistaken for the doctor a lot of times, which kind of like leads me to like another thing is that some people feel like when they have a male, they come in the room and he's a nurse. It's a couple of things that they think, oh, he's the doctor. But if he's not the doctor, why is he not the doctor? Right. Like, was he not smart enough for med school? Could he not cut it? Like what's the deal there? Like,
yeah, that's a double-edged sword right there. It like, okay, you're the doctor. What? Oh, wait, you're not the doctor? You must be trash. Like your skills must be like zero, and they kind of lose confidence in who you are before you even utter the word to them, other than I'm your nurse. Right. I will be your nurse for today or tonight. It's like, okay, he's slacking. Why is he a nurse? He's over here slacking right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. So I mean, that's a little bit of like, I guess, the negative stereotype side of it. But I will say, like, on the flip side of that, like, there's definitely people have asked me, especially like some of my guy friends, would be like, dude, like as a male nurse, like you ain't never had nobody like kick you out the room or refuse care from you because you're a male. I was like, yeah, I've had, some people refuse, care or certain aspects of care because I'm a male. Like the only time I've had somebody like refuse care from me because I was a man is like usually like your older women are kind of the ones that are like, no, like because they're all about their decency and prim and proper, and they don't want to show their goodies, and they've got this more so they're more in tune, I guess, to their moral compass, and it makes them uncomfortable. So things like, helping them toilet or like anything, or when they have to disrobe or change into a gown, or if you got to put them on an EKG, or you got to do things where you're in like a sensitive area, like they're kind of like, no, they would prefer to have a female do, but they have not refused care in other ways. But if it comes to like that intimate level of care, they're like, no, I don't want a lady to do that. Yeah. But I've never simply been flat out like refused. You know what? I'll take that back. There was only one time in my, I guess this was in nursing school, that I was refused care. And so this was when I had to do my mother-baby rotation. And we were in the hospital on a labor and delivery unit, postpartum. So a mother had just had a baby. Young couple, they were in their 20s, like early 20s, like 21, 22. Mm-hmm. And they were like Russian Episcopalian or something like that was like their religion. And so in their culture, like even the wives don't even want their husbands to see them below the waist when they're giving birth. And so in that instance, I was assigned to this couple, and then when they realized they had a male nursing student, they were like, no, we don't want to have the male nursing student in here. So I was refused to care for that couple. But on the flip side, on the next week on a different unit on labor and delivery, actually, antepartum, I had two couples. Both of them were very, very receptive to having me in the room and very involved in the process. Like probably the only thing I didn't do was a sterile vaginal exam, but I was there for every step of the way, like starting their catheters, like helping them push, like all the different things that I needed to do, like, just inspecting, the area down there. They were very receptive to having me in the room throughout the birth process. So you have some people that are like, I don't know if I want a male to take care of me. But then on the flip side, you have several patients that actually prefer male nurses.
Yeah, see, my experience has been where, like, if I was performing a procedure or whatever, it was best to not be in that room alone, as a male. So I would always have a chaperone, whether it was a CNA or whoever, I would have them in there as I'm doing anything because not me personally, but there was a coworker who got caught into the mix of some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't true, but they had to go through the process because this patient, she's a
Yeah, they naturally
dementia
have to
patient,
investigate that, you know.
so they had to go through the process of doing it. But in throughout this process, this person had to be out of work for at least what, like 2 weeks or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
he's losing
Yeah.
money because of something that didn't happen,
Right.
and he wasn't able to defend himself because it was his word against hers.
Exactly. I was going to make that point. It's like it just goes back to what we said earlier. It's like even in these situations, even if it didn't happen, it's always going to be their word against ours until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And with that being said, that just kind of, I will say that because of that is actually why some patients actually prefer male nurses, and I'll tell you why. Because we have to always think about that. It's her word against ours. Nothing that we need to make sure that we're not anything we've seen is done in an abusive way. So we move a little bit different. I've heard female patients tell me that male nurses are just more gentler. They seem more caring. Like they talk to you in a different way. They're more attentive to you. But that's because I have to make sure that everything I do is therapeutic. So I have to shrink myself. I have to make sure, because as a man, I may not realize my own strength in sometimes. So I have to also make sure that, I am not hurting you in any kind of way. So I'm a little bit more delicate with you, with the female patient. Maybe not, I actually noticed that even with male patients, like I'm probably a little bit rougher with my male patients, and I don't think twice. But when I have a female patient, I'm very much so thinking twice, because I don't want you to think that I hurt you. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to, assault you in any type of way. So I make sure that my care is I'm very meticulous when it comes to giving care to my female patients.
I found that the male patients were more disrespectful toward the male nurse.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Like I don't think that's been my experience. Like tell me about that, man.
They've been, I've dealt with older patients, so geriatrics and all. So they were more or less, I guess, flirting with the female nurses and the CNAs. So I'm guessing maybe when they see me, I'm almost like blocking, so it's like, maybe if I complain enough, maybe I can get the female nurse over here instead of him.
Yeah. And so and I've noticed that, and in the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the specific advantages that having a male on the unit brings. But that just definitely brings up the point that I wanted to make, because like in the ER, I've had several instances where I've had male patients that were just overly aggressive, flirtatious, just disrespectful and just nasty, like to the nurses. Like for instance, like these men come in here, and this is a phenomenon, something that I like to call hospital-induced inability. Like when you come to the hospital, it's like you forget how to take care of yourself. Like you are not like when you come in here, you are not that incapacitated that you cannot handle basic care for yourself. Like, sir, your hands still work. Like you're asking this nurse to come in here and hold your penis and hold this urinal so you can pee. Your hands, both of your hands work. You don't even have IVs in your hand. Like, and then I just think about it. Like, you came to the hospital, all of a sudden you can't do anything. How are you going to the bathroom at home?
Right.
You was doing that by yourself, but because you got this female nurse, and this nurse is cute and she's attractive, and like you want to go ahead and like warp this whole, this care. She's caring for you, and so you want her to touch you. You want her to do all these things, and it makes these nurses uncomfortable. And I've had several instances where these men are requesting these nurses to do stuff, and the nurse will come to me and be uncomfortable with going in there, and I'll be like, you know what? Nope, don't even go in there. I got it. And so I'll go in the room and be like, oh, you said you needed help with this urinal. You need me to hold this. You need me to help you put your penis in here and go to the bathroom. All of a sudden, magically, this dude can go to the bathroom by himself.
Yeah.
Oh, but what happened 5 minutes ago when you thought the female nurse was coming in here? You thought you was gonna get her to touch on you. Nah, bro, that's not what we doing today. And so that's kind of like one of those things where it's like, having men on the unit. like I can understand you saying that like some men are probably being even disrespectful to you because like I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, man. I'm hyper protective of these female nurses in situations like that because that is completely uncalled for. Like here we are trying to be professional with you and take care of you, and you turning this sexual, and that's not cute at all. Like, what makes you think you in here as a patient, you sick that we want to deal with you in some sexual way? Like, this is not the time or the place, my man.
Yeah, and it happens more than it doesn't too, man. Like it's like some of my patients, I catch them like staring down at the CNAs or whatever, and and making them feel uncomfortable. Like they're scared to even bring like a tray to their room or whatever because of the way they're looking at them. So I have to step in, like, hey, you bothering my coworker? What are you whispering over here? Like, and making them feel so uncomfortable. Like, and it happens way more than it doesn't, and it's so weird.
And I just think that's that thing about like as men in society that like women have to move differently because of their interactions that they have with males, because there are a lot of males out here who are doing terrible things and moving like that and making women uncomfortable. And so when they see a male nurse, maybe they got to think twice about the interaction. Like, man, is he like one of those men that's gonna make me uncomfortable, or is he really gonna care for me? Because as a nurse, he is in a more intimate way. He is in a better position to take advantage of me than that other man is. And so they have to look out and make sure that, like, is he going to do his job? Is he going to take care of me, or is he going to take advantage of me? And so it's tough. It's tough having to deal with that. And that kind of just goes back to the whole why, we may be perceived as less masculine, because to avoid that, we have to carry ourselves in a much, I don't want to say a diminutive way, but we have to suppress ourselves a little bit and just make sure that that aggressive masculine side is not the first thing that they see. And so if that's not the first thing my patient sees, it's also not the first thing society sees. And I just wanted to kind of make that link to like the media perception like of male nurses. Like the media, a lot of the stereotypes that we talk about on the show and a lot of the things that we deal with are very much so started and promulgated through the media. For instance, take you seen Meet the Parents, right, bro?
I've seen maybe a snippet here or there.
So like Meet the Parents is like it's hilarious. Like it's a great movie, but the main character's name is Greg Fokker, and he is a male nurse. And it seems like he catches hell from his in-laws about his career. And, and how they portrayed him in this movie is just, it's very stereotypical of what most people think about male nurses. And so that media representation is one of those things that just kind of carries it over and just makes it, it just makes it even bigger of an issue, sometimes.
Yeah, because a lot of times folks don't do their research and all that. Yeah. So we start dealing with that when they come to the floor, or if they see us at Starbucks in our scrubs, or some of y'all nurses go to Target. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a lot of stereotypes that we have to battle with.
Right. Yeah. So with that being said, why don't you give the folks a little bit of discharge teaching before we head out of today's episode?
If you see me in my scrubs, it's okay to call me Doc. But, give me a moment, give me the time to go to class to finish that up. But in seriousness, when it comes to this medical field, especially as male nurses, when you see us out and about, give us the respect of just being your caretaker, or the person that's providing you care, not attaching something to it. Like the occupations, for the most part, the ones that I could think of, are non-binary when it comes to that aspect. And there's no specific person fit were a specific gender fit for a specific job. And all of us are here to provide that help promotion and move the keep the population in fit order as
Hmm.
much as we can. So sex as it pertains to male and female and what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing as a job shouldn't be attached to it. You know? And hopefully we can dispel some of that stuff throughout our lifetime in this process of memoirs.
Right. Thank you for that, Derek. So, one more thing before we head out of here. We just want to remind you guys to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook at Memoirs of a Murse, Nursing from the Male Perspective. We are also on Instagram at Memoirs _of_a_Murse. We are now available on all streaming platforms, so not just YouTube today. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get your streaming content, you'll be able to find us there. So make sure you check us out on whatever platform that you use, and also support. Make sure that you stop by our merchandise shop and get you some merch. We got t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, water bottles. Like, you name it, we can make it. We got it for you. And especially right now for the holidays, we do have our Christmas line of Murse merch. So definitely make sure that you get the hoodies, the t-shirts. You know, it's cold outside. Get you a hoodie. Anybody that follows me knows that I'm a hoodie addict. Get you one of these hoodies. So you can find that at mersebydesign.myshopify.com. And so with that being said, thank you guys for listening, and until the next shift.